Hello, course 3 class. I'm going to actually start some math today. What we have today is lesson 1.1. So what you're going to do is take out your course 3 note-taking guide and follow along. So if you don't have it right now, hit pause, go grab that. I guess it's not super needed, but you can make notes along with it as we go if you have it with you. So what we're going to do is look at the first lesson 1.1. It's on interpreting graphs. It's a pretty basic interpreting graphs section just to kind of get you an intro into it again. If you've had me in the past, we've probably done more graph type work and stuff in the past, but this is just kind of a good review to go over again. So the two main things we're looking at in this lesson is bar graphs and histograms. So maybe interpreting graphs isn't the best title. It's very specific to bar graphs and histograms. So we'll explain each of those in a second. So first example, interpreting a bar graph. This bar graph shows a number of state parks in 4 states. Use the bar graph to answer a question or explain why you can't answer the question using the graph. So letter A says which state has the most state parks. Okay, so you have to look at what the graph is. It's a title, state parks. On the vertical axis, it says state parks. So that would be the number of state parks, 0 to 100. The bottom is the states. Okay, so it says which state has the park. So you're just looking for the highest bar. Okay, and so that would be Iowa. Okay, and they talk about the answer right down in here. So just what I just said, the vertical axis state parks, bars represents the state. So Iowa has the tallest bar. Letter B, which state has the largest state park? Okay, so you have to understand what the graph is about. The graph is about the number of state parks. It has nothing to do with the size. Okay, so letter B, the sizes of the bars do not represent the size of the state parks. So you can't answer this question. Okay. Now, again, I'm using the teacher's edition of this. We don't have to fill in every little blank. So the one problem is that these, when it says your turn now, are already done, but we'll discuss them just so you get some other examples in. Number 1 says about how many more state parks does Ohio have than Utah? So you have to look at Ohio than Utah. So I'm thinking Ohio has about 75 because this is 60 to 80. 70 is probably right in the middle. It looks a little more than that. And then Utah looks to be exactly 40. Okay. And then it's asking for how many more. And so it'd be like that. Okay. Now, this would be an example of, so when I show you the suggestions for the work to do for practicing this stuff, and a lot of this stuff, the work is going to be extra credit, it just adds points to your test. The answers are in your workbooks and stuff. So I would want to see like a one-step work process. Even if you used a calculator for this, you don't need to, but this would be an example of showing work for number 1 here. And then there may be some problems that you can't show work, and that's fine for now. Number 2, which state has the least number of state parks? So you really can't show work from this. It's the smallest one, and it's Maine. Okay. Next, making a frequency table. This is going to lead into making a histogram. I will attach another video to the discussion board on how to make histograms, but we'll talk about it quick. They kind of show it here already made. So, but it says waterfalls. The data shows the heights in meters of the 23 tallest waterfalls in the world. Make a frequency table of the data. Okay, so they give the heights in no order. Okay, well, what they did to make a histogram, you need to set up some sort of intervals, and they should be equal intervals. So you can see it goes from 0 to 99. So that's actually intervals of 100 because you count 0 and then goes to 399. So that's intervals of 100, and they make all of these equal. So any 300s, 400s, 500s, all the way up to 900s. And what you would do here, since this one's complete, I'll just kind of start it for you. You take a number, you set up your intervals first, then 365. That's between 300 and 399. So they've already done this, but you would put a tally mark there. And then you would cross off the data that you use. And then you go to 491. That's between 4 and 499. So you'd put a tally mark there. And then you'd cross off the data you used. And then you'd go through, what they did is they went through all these numbers and tallied them up. Then you count your tallies. And that's the frequency, which means how many of each interval there are. There are 7 waterfalls with the height in the 300s. There are 3 waterfalls with the height in the 400s. And so on. There's only 1 that's in the 900s. Okay. So again, the steps here, they choose the scale and intervals right here. Use tally marks to record, and then write the frequency of each one here. Now, what you do with that information is you can make more of a visual graph, which it looks just like a bar graph, but it's a specific type of bar graph, which is called a histogram. And on a histogram, the intervals go along the bottom, and then the frequency goes along the vertical axis. Okay, so it says draw and label the horizontal and vertical axis. Start the vertical scale at 0 and end at 8. Use increments of 2. Now this could vary. So it goes from 1 to 7. Your frequencies go from 1 to 7. So you'd start at 0, and then you could go 0 to 10 and go up by 1s if you had certain graph paper and you just wanted to show it that way. That's fine. They went 0 to 8 by 2s. It just kind of makes the graph a little shorter, shrinks it down. Okay. Then, like I said, the intervals go along the horizontal axis, which represents the height. 2, draw a bar to represent the frequency of each interval. So from the 300 interval, there was 7 of them. So they make this bar up to 7. Okay, in between the 6 and the 8, and then they make a bar. The 400s there's 3 of them. So they go up between the 2 and the 4, and they make that. Okay, and then, so that visually shows, there's a lot of them in the 300s, not as many in all these. 700s has a little more, and then goes down again. So let's look at a couple questions here. It says number 3, which interval has the greatest number of waterfalls? So you're just looking for the tallest bar. That would be the 3 to the 399. Okay, if they asked how many, okay, that's between 6 and 8, so it's 7. Number 4, if you include the next 5 tallest waterfalls, in what interval do you think they will be? Explain. Okay. So let's take a look. It says 200 to 299. The data includes 2 waterfalls that have a height of 300 meters. So the next 5 waterfalls will likely be less than 300 meters. I don't know if I really like their logic there. I don't think that's a great question. Oh, I get what they're saying. So what they're saying is this was the top 23. So now if they included 28, which means they're going farther down the list, they're saying the lowest one right now is 300. Okay. So now the next 5 tallest would be under 300. Okay, which means they'd be in the 200s. So the next 5 would most likely be 200 to 299. Now, technically, we don't know that because there could be one under 200 or something, but most likely there's going to be a lot more in the 200s, and that's probably where all 5 of them would be. But again, there's no exact answer, and they explain their logic. It's there. So So there is just example problems, what you're going to see. If you go to your study guide, what I suggest is to look through these problems, read and make sure that you're understanding what to do. Again, the answers are in the back of this. So if you look and you're understanding these, you're probably good. You might not need to go do the practice workbook. Okay. Again, there's some questions here. Do those. If you're understanding this, you should be good. Now, if you want to earn some extra credit, well, first of all, look at this. If you're not getting the answers that are in the back, that's when you ask me a question. Okay. If you're just so-so on those, and or you want more practice, or you want to earn some extra credit points to add right onto your test, you can do the practice worksheet. Okay, so the practice worksheet, you actually answer questions. This is a good way to get some points because you're going to make a frequency table and histogram. So you're probably going to earn a little more extra credit points on this than you would on others. But I actually want to see it written out. It could match to there's answers again in the back of the book here, but I should kind of see how the setup is and make it yourself. And then on this page, there's some questions. There's not a lot to do on your own, but this would help you prepare for the test really well. So there's not a lot of work to show. There'll be some of these practices that all they have is the answers in the back, so you're going to have to show work. The last thing, if you're really not understanding, if you want to do this and you're not understanding really how they did made the histogram or made the frequency chart in the histogram, I'm going to attach a link and I'm going to show you how to get there. So I'm going to attach this link in our discussion, and it's going to pop up like this and won't pop up to the actual video. So what you need to do, if you want to watch that part, that's an optional one. You're going to click on chapter 1 and you're going to go to 1.1.
Have you ever been down?
Okay, and it's going to give a little video like this.
This table shows
if
the height of
it has closed captioning, if it's not showing up for you, you tap this button over here. Okay, so I will link that if you want to watch. Okay, if there's any questions, let me know.